Okay, go.
Okay, thanks very much, Matt. Yes, as I said, my name is Fiona Crouch. I work for Natural England and I'm the project manager for the ReMEDIES project. And Matt asked me to do an introduction to the project, so I will try and make it as engaging as I can, considering if I feel like I'm just talking to my laptop. Hopefully there are people out there. So really just tell you a little bit the what, the where, the who, the how, the when and the why we are doing this project. So hopefully you've heard of it about it before, but I'll provide a bit more detail about what we plan to do. So like all projects, they need an acronym. So ReMEDIES is our acronym, and it's rather long-winded, and it kind of fits. So it's reducing and mitigating erosion and disturbance impacts affecting the seabed. And it's LIFE Recreation ReMEDIES, so it's funded by European LIFE project. It's for 4 years, so we started in July 2019. We had a few delays at the start. It took a bit longer to sign the grant agreement between Natural England, who are the lead partners, and also the European Commission. We had a little bit of Brexit dithering in between that as well, but we finally got going, and it's a 4-year project, so to finish all our work by July 2023, and then we have a few months till October to actually do all the reporting. And so the overarching aim of the project is to improve the condition of 4 marine habitats of European importance. So we'll be working within special areas of conservation within the UK in the south of England. And because it's European funding, that's why we're working within SACs, because SACs have been designated under the European Habitats Directive. So that's why we're doing SACs and not maybe marine conservation zones, because they're designated under the Marine and Coastal Access Act, so they're a national designation. So the areas we're working in, as you can see there, is Arzachilli Complex, the Fowl and Helford, Plymouth Sound estuaries, Solent Maritime, and the Essex estuaries. And if your geography is a bit dodgy, there's a map show you from west to east. We are based in the south, and that's really because that's where we've already previously done a lot of work through Natural England surveys, and we have a lot of the information which we're drawing upon for the project. So that's why we are in the south. It's no geographical bias one way or another. So we're working, so these Annex 1 habitats, so these are the habitats that special area conservations were designated under. So sandbanks like covered by seawater, estuaries, mudflats and sandbanks not covered by seawater, and large shallow inlets and bays. So those are the habitats that we'll be working within in this project. So how did it all begin? Good question, you may ask. Over the years, we've been working a lot with the Royal Yachting Association on recreational impacts, and particularly looking at kind of seagrass. And some of you may recall the conversations and sort of maybe the issues around Studland Bay. So there's a lot of work and conversation that had gone on before, but they also felt that there was a need to get some funding to do some more intense work around this subject. So they had a number of eco-mooring workshops in a National Trust in 2017, RYA in 2018. And tomorrow, Mark Parry will be talking about seagrass restoration and more about moorings, so I don't want to go into too much detail about that and steal his thunder. But just if you're not aware, an eco-mooring is, or we call them advanced mooring systems, or you can see they're environmentally friendly moorings. So traditional mooring is basically a big slab of concrete on the seabed as a big load of chain, which is called the riser, and then that goes to a buoy on the surface, which the boat attaches to. And these traditional moorings, the chain, especially at low tide, will lie on the seabed, and that will form scouring. And so that is the issues we're having with habitats such as seagrass. So advanced mooring systems, or eco moorings, basically different methods that actually take that riser off a seabed and actually reduce the footprint of the anchor or the concrete block on the seabed. So that's just a quick explanation, because I'll mention them quite a lot as I go on. So that's what we're trying to move towards, is advanced mooring systems away from traditional moorings. So there needs to be some sort of trials and how we can work with these. So they approached the LIFE funding money pot, and there was a workshop in February where partners came together to discuss what they could do, what the issues are, and they're really focused on recreational impacts. And also sort of recreation, because for LIFE, there's already a lot of projects around climate change and those different subjects, but not necessarily so much on recreational impacts. So that's where it all came from. It was a two-stage process. So first you just have to write 5 or 6 pages about what you wanted to do, and then if the money people thought, oh, that sounds like a good idea, you then had to do a whacking great big proposal and then put that in, and then hopefully get the money. So we've got our partners together, and here they are in all their glory. So Natural England are the leads. So we work with Royal Yachting Association through their Green Blue initiative. So that's sort of their environmental arm of the RYA. And then we have the Marine Conservation Society, Ocean Conservation Trust, which Mark works for, and they are the charitable arm of the National Marine Aquarium in Plymouth. And then we have Plymouth City Council, who are working with Tamar Estuaries Consultative Forum, and they are the management group for Plymouth Sound and Tamar Estuaries, which is chaired by Queen's Harbour Master, because Port of Plymouth is a military port, as is the Solent, so that's QHM. And then LIFE provides 60% of the project costs, so fortunately it's not 100% funded, so our partners have to find the other 40% of the work that they'll be doing. And overall, the project is around €2.5 million. You have to remember it's euros and not pounds, because that can make an awful lot of difference to your budget when you're spending money. So as I say, these are sort of the key issues that we're looking at around. You see the recreational pressures there, the impacts they're having on seagrass and mearl, and those are the key features that we're focusing on within those habitats that I mentioned before, those Annex 1 habitats. And sort of seagrass and mearl are really important, as we know, for protected species like seahorses, stalk jellyfish, rare seaweeds. They're an important nursery ground for fish, and probably bigger conversations that have been had recently about seagrasses, the storage of carbon, they produce oxygen, and they also are really good for coastal protection. So seagrass in particular is a really important habitat that we're focusing on, and then also the issues around mearl, which is mainly around the fowl and halford. So we are working within those features. So objectives and scope. So what are we going to do over these 4 years, or 3 now, a bit less. So it's project reduce recreational pressures in England, and the risk to intertidal and subtidal habitats. Now, what we found with the seagrass particularly, and the surveys, a lot of work that Natural England have done, is that our seagrass beds are declining, and now many of them are seen to be in unfavourable status, and within European directives, you can't have your habitat's deteriorating, the ones that you're trying to protect, and they shouldn't be in unfavourable status. So the work we will be doing is to move those seagrass habitats from unfavourable to favourable condition. That's the plan. So part of that will be targeting training, so training recreational boat users, and also stakeholder behaviour change. So I know a lot of projects now work with social scientists. So instead of us just going in and say, right, we're going to do this work, there's going to be a lot of work going on about how we can change people's behaviour and looking at their barriers to actually changing their behaviour. So that would be an important part of the work. And then the restoration and management techniques. So as I said, the advanced mooring systems, voluntary codes, and we'll be using the work from the behaviour change to actually sort of really hone down our messaging and how we can develop those codes, managing access, and also seagrass restoration. As I say, Mark will talk about that tomorrow. And then what's really important about these projects is you have to promote awareness and inspire better care amongst stakeholders, and that's also the public, and it's at local, national, and then also at European level. Again, because it's European funding, we have to make sure that the work we're doing can then be translated into Europe, and we can work with other LIFE funded projects and other organisations working throughout Europe. So it's called repeatability and transferring of our knowledge. So we'll do a lot of that. And so that's key through our education, communication and networking. So those are the main objectives of the project. Ping. So what will we achieve? Well, we want to demonstrate habitat restoration. So a lot of this is trialing and the management techniques. So you know what's going to work the best, and then improving the condition of those habitats, as I say, within the SACs. Again, raise awareness, inspire better care of our habitats, and importantly at the end is we have to monitor, record and evaluate. So make sure that we're monitoring what we're doing all the time, how we're doing it, are we doing it right, and then what those benefits will be. And the big thing that I always hear is this project is about nature conservation. So what will our impact be on nature conservation of these habitats? So that is the plan. That's what we're going to achieve. Yeah. No pressure. Okay, so to do that, we need to engage with stakeholders, and I will be one of my tasks. I started work this job on the 24th of February. I think I had about 3 weeks in the office before we got locked down, and now I'm stuck at home. But I will be developing a stakeholder advisory group, which some of you listening to this might be invited to. We have to work with the regulators, of course, and there are so many out there, not necessarily regulators, but just groups, even when you're looking at moorings. There's so many groups involved. So, of course, we've got the Marine Management Organisation, we've got all the harbour authorities that we're working in, and people like Queen's Harbour Master. And then the SAC managers are advisors. And we've got a great team within Natural England who we'll be working with. It's not over England, you know, we've got the UK, so looking at Scottish Natural Heritage, the larger DEFRA group, so the Environment Agency have got some work going on restoration of habitats. We've got National Resources Wales, and then again in Europe, so there's other European organisations like the French Biodiversity Agency, there's the Wadden Sea, and there's all the work that's going on in the Mediterranean on Posidonia, which is their species of seagrass. And then the recreational boaters, all the different groups that are involved in there, of course through the RYA, but then sort of engaging with all the smaller sailing clubs around our areas that we'll be working in and their governing bodies. bait collectors and hand gatherers. So a lot of the work we'll be doing in Essex is on the mud. So more intertidal than compared to our other 4 sites. So we'll be engaging with them, talking to them, and developing sort of best practice. And then of course general public, which there are many. And then the school group. So we have an engagement program going on, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute. And then all the NGOs, so working very closely with, for example, the wildlife trusts. They're people on the ground doing a lot of fantastic work. So we're really hoping that they'll get involved and get engaged and help us with the work we're doing. And then academia. So sort of picking their brains about expertise and what we can do and help, and helping with some of the bigger tasks that we have. So there are lots of people involved, and there's lots of interest in, particularly in seagrass, from other organisations who will hopefully be part of the stakeholder advisory group. So there's lots of different areas, and this is sort of a very sort of blah blah thing coming out of the proposal, which just shows our areas of action, that you have to divide this all up into LIFE funding projects. So you have to, those are actually set tasks that you have to do. So we've got preparation, so we've done the project establishment and recruitment. So at the start we had an interim project manager when we started in July, Jan McLennan, who did a fantastic job. I took over from her, as I say, in February. We have a finance lady, Rebecca, who is amazing, and thank you. She's already worked for Natural England, so she knows all the systems and processes and all that hideous stuff, so she's fantastic. And we're presently employing, or going through the process of employing, assistant manager communications officer, which has proved very popular. So we're at the moment going through those applications, as I was just before I started doing this. So that's great. So we've got our team, and then part of that, then doing all our consents and permissions to make sure that all the work we're doing around the seabed and stuff, we get all our proper licenses and stuff, so MMO don't tell us off. Obviously it's a conservation project, so we've got our conservation actions there, so the stakeholder behaviour, training, removal of existing moorings. So there's a lot of rubbish and debris in a lot of our areas and mooring areas, so such as Corsan Bay. So we do have some money and finance to remove a lot of that debris and stuff that just isn't being used anymore. So that would be part of the project, as well as the installation. Don't look at your phone. And then the restoration and managing access. As I said before, monitoring is going to be really important through our project actions, and also there's a social economic impact on the project as well. Public awareness, so dissemination of oral results and replication and transfer of those results. So we've got to make sure that the work we do, we then spread it far and wide across the UK and Europe and the world if we want to. And the kind of boring bit that's really my bag, which is overall project management, and then all that horrible reporting. And then we have performance indicators for LIFE, which we have to adhere to. So that's all we're going to do. So just maybe touch on a few bits in more detail. Changing behaviour. So we, Natural England, have got an external contract that we're just completing now for consultancy to do some behaviour change work. Recreational use survey. So that's part of the work we're going to be doing, and something that people, if you're listening to this, can get involved with. So that would basically be people out on the shore, eyes on the sea, recording recreational use, so how many boats there are, what sorts of boats, and where they are anchoring or mooring or basically buzzing about. So that's something we're going to get going on. And then the Isles of Scilly, we've got a citizen science project that will be starting probably next year. Maybe everything will start next year, who knows? Which will be getting people involved in spotting seagrass beds, because there might be areas we don't know about. It's quite a diverse area, lots of little islands. So there's a project to do that in the Isles of Scilly. And then the targeting training. So the recreational users, of course, this is going to be RYA's main focus of work within the project. Green Blue already do a fantastic job of producing documents and environmental best practice. So they'll be taking that experience and focusing on what we were doing through remedies, through events and workshops. When they do happen. We had a lot planned, but unfortunately things are being postponed and cancelled at the moment, but they'll be producing the engagement materials, and then also courses for instructors and skippers, so basically training the trainers so that when they're doing their courses they can then use the work that we're doing through remedies and take that to a wide audience. So that's basically what we're doing through that. Seagrass restoration, as I say, I won't steal Mark's thunder, so you'll have to listen in to his talk tomorrow if you want to know all the ins and outs of seagrass restoration. But we are doing nearly completing some modelling work with Exeter University. So that's taken a lot of data, putting it into a model to find the best places to restore seagrass, looking at a lot of environmental variables. So that's hopefully going to be finished soon, and that will support our work. The aquarium has got a fancy lab that will be a public display, so they can watch people doing all their seagrass stuff. There is a plan. That's the hope that we will be able to restore 8 hectares of seagrass in the Solent and Plymouth. That's combined, not 8 hectares in the Solent and 8 in Plymouth, because that's quite ambitious. And then at the end of the project there'll be a best practice guide, and again that's so we can spread our results, and hopefully other people will want to do the same. And of course that's been coordinated by OCT. So the monitoring, there's a Seasearch logo there. So Matt was doing this all through for Seasearch. So this is where Seasearch can really get involved, and Charlotte Bolton is involved, and she's coordinating that for us for remedies. And so there's biological. So we're going to get baseline surveys of seagrass and Natural England dive team. Be doing that, should be doing that, probably should be doing that now, but as I say, that's been slightly delayed. And that would be a whole condition assessment of the seagrass beds in Plymouth and Solent. And then a lot of that be looking at the health and condition, and also before and after we put the advanced mooring systems in, and then looking at the success of the restoration. So Seasearch will be a really important part of this whole monitoring, because doing what Seasearchers do so well is getting down there and recording species and habitats. Would be really important for us to gauge how things are hopefully improving. Also, Seasearchers, if you're out there, we really love your images. If you could supply your images for Natural England to use within remedies, that would be fantastic. There's a couple of mine. I did take that seahorse photo before everyone started putting restrictions, so don't anyone shoot me. But also there's another project through Natural England called Hidden Seas, and that's a project that's really trying to tell people how amazing our seas are, and it's very hard to do that if you don't have the images to back it up. So this is a little sideline, a little plea to divers or people on the intertidal who've got amazing ocean habitat species pictures, and you're sitting there and you're not doing, maybe you've got a little bit of spare time because you're not out and about going through your images. If you'd like to donate them to Natural England and Hidden Seas Project and Remedies, that would be fantastic. My email address is at the end, so I've got a little permission saying you can sign, but that would be fantastic. Anyway, back to remedies. So yeah, doing all the monitoring, that's going to be really important when we can get out there and do it. And then there's a whole social economic impact of actions, and that's part of the surveys and evaluation. So monitoring is quite a big aspect. Okay, and as I said, sort of the final one is the public awareness and dissemination. You can see all the partners are involved in that. We're all going to be telling everyone how amazing all the work we're doing and how amazing our seas are. So we've got videos. So we've just been working with the Hidden Seas project to do a video of the importance of seagrass, which eventually will be shown at the Eden project when that opens again. Infographics, so we've got a one of our tasks is doing a natural capital assessment of seagrass and mearl, which we're just working on now, and there'll be lots of fancy pants infographics coming out of that. Marine Conservation Society, there's sea champions, we do lots of road shows, going to events, so doing a lot of education work through there. Schools program is being led by the Ocean Conservation Trust, and they've actually got a designated education officer to work on remedies, who's developed a brilliant schools program that was just about to go, but is delayed. And also, so the main focus for the schools program is actually not connecting with thousands and thousands of children. So we're not going for high numbers, but we're going for a very focused education program, which is working with a set number of kids over a number of years. So that's shown to have a lot better results. That will be going ahead when we can, and so it won't be just a one-off 1 hour lesson. It will be very graduated through the years, so that would be great. And then networking and conferencing, and we are going to have the advanced mooring workshops that was organised in January this year and previously. We're going to have one of those every year till the end of the project and hopefully beyond. Hopefully we'll have lots of fantastic things to tell people. Certainly a lot more interest this year, and definitely feel we're moving forward, so that's great. And then we have the aquarium displays as well. So there's a lot going on with the public awareness and how we disseminate results, as I say, and that will go through into Europe as well. So what have we achieved? Well, as I say, we started in July. It was the 15th of July. A few delays, so that's established. We nearly got our team. Once we get our communication officer on board, we'll have our nice little remedies team. We had our press release and launch, which actually didn't happen until January because we had that delay in getting the grant agreement signed, and that wasn't until November. And then suddenly someone decided to call a general election. So as a government agency, we weren't allowed to say anything, so it all got delayed through December. So it all happened in January. You can see there's the picture of us, all our happy people in January when we were allowed to stand close together. That photo was taken before social distancing rules came into place, just in case anyone's wondering, because that was in January. So that was a really positive event that happened. I've had some really good conversations with harbour authorities. The mooring manufacturers are been really positive and you know, really want to work with us so we can see how these new kind of advanced mooring systems will work in UK conditions. And Jan has produced a nice little advanced mooring system handbook, which has got the different designs and how they can work. We're developing well, nearly there with our communications and our monitoring plans, which will take us through the project and how we're going to set everything out. So schools and training programs, they're ready to go, at least to be piloted, and then we can develop those as we go through the project. We did some seed collection last year, so we're hopefully raring to go to get out there and start that restoration side of it. Got the habitat modelling, and we're just about to start the behaviour change. So we've done quite a bit. We're getting there. As I say, because of also the word COVID-19, we were kind of just ready to go like everyone this year, and it's all kind of ground to a halt. But you know, I'm still sitting here. I'm still trying to do what I can while we're desk based, and so that when we are allowed out and about, we can really get going. And just on that subject, I thought I'd just sort of finish with a couple of pictures of Plymouth Sound in lockdown. So the top one was taken from Mountbatten Pier on just in the Easter holidays on a beautiful sunny day. There was one fishing boat out doing what fishing boats do, but yeah, there was not a thing on the water, which is unheard of. And then look at that visibility, which just is very sickening. And then on the bottom, that panorama is from Jennycliff on a Saturday afternoon. And again, it's completely deserted. So it is going to raise some interesting questions about people's behaviour, how things will change, how this virus and this whole situation is, you know, it's added, it's the conversations we have, it's going to add sort of another interesting dimension to the work we're doing in remedies, and something we never could have anticipated when we wrote the proposal. We came into this, certainly when I started this job, I didn't think I'd be dealing with what we're dealing with now, but we'll get through it and then we'll be ready to go. So to finish, so that's my email address. If you want to get in touch or you want to donate some of your images, which would be fantastic, thank you very much, just send me an email. And there's a very long convoluted email address at the bottom, which is incomprehensible. So yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Brilliant, thank you, Fiona. Yeah, that was really good. We've got quite a few questions have been coming in.
Oh.
So I'll try to go through them in order that they came in. Now, so we have first off, we've got Sue Watson Bate saying, she said, "This is fab. To raise awareness through educating the community of water users is definitely needed. I'm involved in seagrass surveys in Tor Bay, and when it started about 5 years ago, the coordinator had some funding to do workshops for boat owners and schools, but then funding ceased and it hasn't continued, even though seagrass surveys do still continue. So that's good to know. Is Tor Bay within the area that Remedies is going to be working? Yeah.
It's not within the area, but I have had conversations with the people working, I think the Living Seas. There's a Tor Bay group that I've joined, and they're going to be part of our stakeholder advisory group. So we're going to share our practice on the mooring systems and stuff like that with them. So we are working closely, and no, it's not within our areas, but this is where we hope that we can help and support other groups out with the SACs. So yeah, no, it's brilliant what's been going on there. Yeah, great.
Because what you're going to learn within the SACs will be hopefully transferable, won't it?
Yeah. It's just the funding means we have to work within the special areas of conservation. But what we learn, and hopefully we then can support other groups in developing their work.
So Laura has asked, can snorkelers get involved if they're not Seasearch qualified, and are divers part of the stakeholder discussions? Yeah, in this, can you answer the bit about are divers part of the stakeholder discussions?
I don't know if I have them on the list of the stakeholder advisory group, but that's a very good point.
She says diving oceans and boats can have detrimental effects on shallow water habitats like seagrass if they're busy. Good point, yeah.
That is a good point. Yeah, thanks.
On the subject of
yeah.
can snorkelers get involved, we haven't really got started because of Corona with our plans really. Seasearch are going to be delivering dives each year. We've got some funding for dive boats. We haven't actually planned snorkel surveys yet, but there may be some areas where it's appropriate. But clearly, obviously, if it's too deep, it's quite hard to carry out proper surveys snorkeling. So
we'd already be interested in information from snorkelers, even if it's not directly through what we're involved, but any kind of information if people are out there is always really useful. So yeah.
Yeah, and we might find as the project goes on, mightn't we, Fiona, there is some areas where snorkeling is going to be worth doing. So watch this space. There's nothing planned at the moment. And then how do we get? Sorry, are photos needed for Hidden Seas project taken in any specific area, or can they be? They have to be in the SAC.
Oh no. Yeah, Hidden Seas anywhere.
Anywhere.
In the UK.
Good.
So no tropical nudibranchs, although I'd love to see those. But no, not within the SACs. No, please get in touch.
Ellen's asked, how can we get involved with the recreational use surveys?
Best thing to do is send me an email where you are and your interests, and then, as I say, we're sort of developing a protocol. If it's going to be a bit delayed, but when we get going, then it'd be fantastic if you can help. So yeah, there's my email address. So get in touch, please do.
And then the project focuses on recreational impact. Is there any overlap, stroke crossover with the commercial bodies, and how are they taken into consideration? So that's from Mark Card. Yeah, so I think Mark's, obviously commercial activities are equally potentially going to impact on the seabed, aren't they, in some cases?
Yeah, and we are talking to commercial sort of manufacturers and boat owners, and some are actually showing a real interest in that whole blue carbon side of seagrass. I think the RYO were approached by some dinghy manufacturers as how they can get involved. So yeah, the conversations will be with the manufacturers, and that was really the Royal Yachting Association have all those connections. So commercial is also an area to work with. Yeah.
We often get fishermen saying, "Oh, there's lots of massive boats anchored in the bay, and surely they're having a big impact with their chains." But that's outside of the remit of this project, isn't it? But I wonder if are there other projects that look at that sort of aspect? Do you think, Fiona?
What, anchoring of fishing boats or big boats?
Anchoring of really large boats.
Yeah. Again, that will be looking at use, and it comes down to that public awareness and working with the different stakeholders and sort of getting our message across. We can't be all places at all times. There is the potential to have some no anchoring zones, especially when we're starting to restore the seagrass to limit the impact on those areas. So it's definitely sort of something we're looking at. We are really focusing on recreation impacts, but other uses and eyes on the ground and see what is out there can definitely feed into our work.
So Jasmine's asked, are there any pollution aspects within this project being considered, or is it mainly just physical?
No, we sort of not directly. So we're not going out taking water samples, but we will be liaising with the Environment Agency who do that work. And we know that, of course, water quality is really important for seagrass, and so if we're doing the restoration in those areas, then that's something we need to keep an eye on, and we'll be liaising with the Environment Agency over that aspect of it. Yeah.
Cool. C. Scott said there's value in using kayaks with drop-down cameras, and I think, yeah, for looking at extent of seagrass beds, and I think that was tried, wasn't it, in the project that was carried out by the Bird National Marine Aquarium previously.
Yeah, I think we might be using drop-down cameras a lot. In the, even we can get out if because of there might still be diving restrictions and stuff like that. So we are kind of thinking of other ways, and drop-down cameras, and even sort of like using drop-down cameras around like traditional moorings, to get some assessment of what it's like, before and after. We might be doing a lot more of that. So yeah, kayakers.
Yeah, in the Community Seagrass Initiative, I remember seeing these really cool little cameras that you could tow behind a kayak. But yeah, we'll ask Mark about that tomorrow.
Ask Mark.
And then the next question is relevant for Mark as well. It's about it's Fran asking, I believe there was a pilot study of eco moorings in cool sand, and how's that going? I think that's been monitored by the aquarium, isn't it?
Yep, I'm sure Mark will tell you a lot about that, but it's gone very well, and definitely shown there's improvement in the seagrass. It's regenerated in areas around the new moorings now. So yeah, it's going very well. But I'm sure Mark will give you the details of that tomorrow. So you'll have to listen in.
Cool. And then the last question was from Claire, who said she'd be really interested in hearing some more about the modelling of suitable locations for restoration. And I remember that's Natural England, isn't it? Working with the University of Exeter. How's that project going?
Yeah, it's going. It's been as most things, just getting all the data together and how it worked. But so we're focusing on Plymouth and the Solent, because those are the areas where we'll be doing the restoration. But once we have that model set up, there's no reason, as long as we have the data and the information to put in the model, that it can potentially be used for other areas. And once the work's been done by Exeter University, we will then have all that information, and we will have that model, Natural England, and then, if possible, we'll be able to apply it to other areas.
I was quite excited at that prospect, because presumably there may well be areas where conditions are great for seagrass. The seagrass doesn't currently exist, so it's finding out why, isn't it? And going down there and checking it. Firstly, if there is seagrass, secondly, why isn't it there, and could it be restored in that area, would be an interesting question.
Yeah, I think it might just go, oh, well, it might, why is it showing that area? And then it might be that you can go back historically, and then it might turn out that it was there and now it isn't, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well when it's finished.
Yeah, Donald's just asked that, actually. Do you have good historical information on the extent and distribution of seagrass in these areas? That's quite interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How good is the historical information? It's sort of variable, I imagine.
Yeah, it is. And I always recount when I was doing the seagrass survey, we do every year in the Isles of Scilly, and I was waiting on the beach for the rib to come in, and this old boy started talking to me, and he was just brilliant, and he was just telling me all about the seagrass beds, where they were there. Oh, it was there a couple of years ago, and then it disappears, but then it comes back. And he was like saying, oh, I don't know why all you scientists are here, you just have to ask people like him. So yeah, there is lots of anecdotal information, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of doing that citizen science project in the Isles of Scilly, and I know Project Seagrass, they have their seagrass spotter program as well. So just asking people to record when they find seagrass. So if you're out snorkeling, etc., then you just got to look. Sorry, I'm just dithering because someone's just knocked at my door and I think it's a delivery. So I'll just mute myself and hang out the window.
Yeah, do that. We've had some more comments coming in saying Sue said in the Fallon Health they've got some historic records, which is interesting. And there's been some Rick said there's some Seasearch reports on old surveys for seagrass in Plymouth Sound as well that are published on the Seasearch website, and so that's good. We also had actually this is a question that maybe you can help answer as well. We had a question here from Claire Young asking, do we have a linkage with the team at the University of Swansea who have recently replanted seagrass meadows in Dale?
We do indeed. Yeah. I talked to Richard Unsworth, who was dealing with that a couple of weeks ago, and we're in touch with him. So hopefully we'll be able to work together on areas of the project with Swansea. They were going to be a partner, but unfortunately in the end they weren't. But there's definitely so much work they're doing that we need to carry on the conversation. So yes, definitely.
And is their seagrass replanting going okay?
Well, yeah, talking to Richard, they got it all done and planted, and now they can't get out to monitor it. But he does feel that maybe lockdown has done them a favour in one way, and that there's not lots of boats out there or people out there having an impact on what they've planted. So it's kind of 6 and 2 3s. They can't get out to see it, but no one can get out to trash it.
Yeah. Yeah, good. There's
definitely
some sort of silver linings on there.
Yeah, we're trying to think of silver linings.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Fiona. It's been really good, and I think we've got a great audience, and they've been asking some really good questions. I expect the discussions will continue, and now everyone knows who to ask. I expect you're going to get a big flood of messages through to your inbox.
I didn't lose too many. That was good. Sometimes that little thing came down, and can have a quick look like, oh, no, it's right. So yeah, no, it's strange.
It went really well. So yeah, thank you very much. And for everybody who took part, thank you for joining us. And don't forget that tomorrow we've got another talk at 2 o'clock from Mark Parry, who will be telling us about their work with the advanced moorings and with trying to grow seagrass and restoring it and planting it out back into the environment, into the wild. So yeah, people are saying thank you on the comments here. This is great.
Hello.
So thank you very much. That's brilliant. And thanks all of you for joining. And yeah, don't forget to look out on our YouTube channel, and you can catch up with this, share this to people who might be interested, and also catch up with all of our other talks that we've had over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, we're really how it's all going. Nice one. Thank you, Fiona.
All right. Cheers. Thank you very much.